Hey traders, it's Reed from Shift to Alpha. And if you're a funded prop firm trader who knows your rules, knows your strategy, but keeps breaking execution under live market pressure, we made this video for you. And just real quick, if you're still looking for a strategy, if you haven't been funded yet, if you're not yet at the point where you can trade profitably on replay or in backtesting, this isn't your video yet. Go build that foundation because what we're breaking down only applies to the trader who has the knowledge, who has the edge, but can't execute it when it actually counts. I want to read you something that a funded trader sent me, and it goes as follows. I had three $150,000 funded accounts with $10,000 profit on all three, totaling $30,000. And then I lost the accounts. I don't know why I keep getting to the point of making money, but just not getting myself paid. This trader proved he could catch the moves. He proved that he had a strategy that worked repeatedly. He built $30,000 in real profit across three real funded accounts, but he gave back every single dollar of it. If you're watching this, I bet you know exactly what that feels like. Maybe not $30,000, but the cycle is the same, regardless of how much money is lost in your account. You study the market, you learn the patterns. You can look at the chart and tell someone exactly what they should do. You know your rules, you recite them in your sleep, but the second real money is on the line, live market, live drawdown, real payout on the other side, something begins to shift in your trading. The rules you knew becomes the rules that you break. The discipline you had on a demo account disappears on a funded account. The clarity you had before the session evaporates the moment you're in a trade. And the key concept here, the gap between knowing and doing is the single most expensive problem that we have seen at Shift to Alpha in funded trading. It has nothing to do with information and everything to do with the operating system your brain is running. Because the prefrontal cortex, which is your rule execution center, which is the part of your brain that's going to follow your plan no matter what, it loses its control to the amygdala, which is a different part of your brain responsible for threat responses. So, under live financial pressure, this amygdala takes control, creating involuntary execution deviation. And the worst part about all of this is that you can see yourself doing it in real time. You're watching yourself move your stop loss, chase the entry, double your position size. And some part of your brain is screaming, this isn't your trading plan, but you can't stop. That gap between knowing and doing is the single most expensive problem in funded trading. And it's the one that nobody is solving correctly because the live market pressure activates a different brain system. That's why so many people can trade great on a demo account, but not great in the live market. And there's so many things that can trigger this shift in which part of your brain that you're actually using subconsciously while you are trading. So I wanted to read this to break a belief that so many traders have. The execution gap is not a knowledge problem. It's not an information problem. And adding more courses, more strategies, more YouTube videos on top of it will do absolutely nothing. Because knowledge and execution under pressure are two completely different skills. And they use two completely different systems in your brain. That's why you can crush it on replay, backtest like a machine, plan the perfect session on Sunday night, but it all falls apart Monday morning when the market opens and real money is on the line. It's not because you forgot your rules, it's because your brain switched its operating system. So here's what's actually happening when you're trading like this. When you're studying, planning, and backtesting, you're using your thinking system, your prefrontal cortex in your mind. The logical part, the part that analyzes setups, calculates risk, and follows your rules to your strategy. It's brilliant at this, it's the best. That's why your weekend analysis looks like a masterclass. That's why when you backtest on your trading, everything looks so perfect. But when you're in a live trade with real money, your brain shifts into a different mode. The moment something is at stake, your funded account, your trailing drawdown, your payout, your identity as a trader, your survival system starts scanning for threats. And it's incredibly sensitive to what it considers as a threat. It doesn't need to be an actual loss to activate. The possibility of a loss is more than enough. Watching the unrealized profit and loss bounce around during a trade is more than enough. Thinking about how close you are to your payout, again, it's more than enough. And when that survival system fires, it does something critical. It suppresses your thinking system, like we talked about. It turns down the volume on the part of your brain that holds your rules, your plan, and your logic intact throughout the session. Not as a metaphor, as a measurable neurological event. And research even shows that the emotional response fires milliseconds before the rational one. In calm conditions, those milliseconds don't matter. But under live market pressure, those milliseconds are the difference between following your plan and breaching your account and losing all the gains that you've built for the entire trading period. So when you say, I knew what to do, but I couldn't do it, you're describing the exact moment your survival brain takes over. You didn't fail. Your brain did exactly what it was designed to do. It just doesn't work in this trading environment. Here is the actual latency between threat activation, which is the amygdala, and the override of your trading plan. Because you jump into fight or flight mode and it happens around 0.12 seconds. It occurs so fast that you cannot catch it in real time. And remember, your survival system does not need an actual loss in order to activate, take over, and hijack the rest of your trading session. It's the possibility of this loss. It's the unrealized profit and loss fluctuation. It may be payout proximity. It may be a trade that you were about to enter into that ran away from you, and it would have been a lot of money in profits by now. It doesn't matter what that is for you. It's different from every trader, but it's anywhere around 0.12 seconds. And here is exactly why trading is uniquely brutal for the nervous system compared to almost any other domain you can enter into. Because your brain, it learns from patterns. If you touch a hot stove, you get burned. Your brain learns to avoid stoves. That's how humans survived for thousands of years. So in the future, when that same event comes up, your amygdala gets triggered in around that 0.12 seconds. So you're in fight or flight mode so that your brain can protect yourself. That's how it's supposed to be. But the markets, it breaks this system because the market is a random distribution of wins and losses. The exact same setup, same time frame, same confirmation, same entry can win today and lose tomorrow. Not because you did anything differently, but because the market is simply a collective of emotions from millions of different traders around the world. And whoever's in the market that day versus the next day is completely random. And your brain, we're not designed to be able to accept that level of randomness because we are hardwired to be able to find patterns, predict what happens next to keep us safe. So when it encounters genuine randomness, it does two things. First, it creates false patterns. So that's when you say, I lost on the last 3 trades, so something must be going wrong. There might be nothing going wrong, or there might be. That could just be the normal distribution of losses that you incur with your strategy. But your brain needs a narrative because uncertainty feels like danger. Or second, it stores emotional memories. Every painful loss gets tagged with the conditions surrounding it. So when you lose a trade, your mind subconsciously looks at the chart pattern, the time of day, the way your body felt. And the next time when those similar conditions appear, your brain fires a warning before you're even conscious of it. Because the brain cannot differentiate between a broken strategy and standard probabilistic variance. It's generating the identical threat response to both scenarios. So that's when you start hesitating on a perfect setup. because your brain remembers the last time a similar one cost you and you lost from it. Or you chase a trade, you trace an entry because your brain remembers missing a big move last week. You're not trading the chart anymore. You're trading your emotional memory of the chart. Even though we understand that no two trades are identical to each other because the market is random. And this emotional memory contamination, it means you are making current decisions based on past pain, not current market conditions. This is invisible to the trader experiencing it. So many traders say, well, look, we weren't trying to trade like that. That's what we really saw in the chart. That's what we really thought was going on. So we decided to enter a little early. But what you don't understand is this is happening at a subconscious level. You never consciously say, I'm going to act against my trading plan and just enter in early. Or, hey, I'm going to hesitate on this trade because something doesn't look right. No, it's all happening subconsciously, where you can't exactly explain why you're hesitating. You can't exactly explain why you want to chase this trade down and enter in early, because your subconscious mind is doing the trading for you based on the past patterns that you have seen. And when you're doing that, that is incredibly dangerous because you're trading a strategy that you now don't even know works because you're doing random things based off your emotional memory. And this is exactly why the gap between a demo account and a funded account is so massive. On a demo account, the stakes are zero. Your survival brain, for the most part, is sleeping. Your thinking system is fully online. You execute perfectly because there's no real threat. The second you switch to funded, the second that drawdown is real, the payout matters, the account can actually be breached and you lose those profits that you would have put into your bank account, you start to see different results. That's the execution gap. And it has nothing to do with how much you know, how much chart time you put in, how much practice you have. It has nothing to do with any of those things. And this demo to funded gap, it's not a discipline failure. It is a measurable shift in the neurological operating state caused by the introduction of real financial consequences. So here's something that we need to wrap our minds around. You didn't fail. Your brain did exactly what it was designed to do. It just doesn't work in this environment. That's why doing things like trading from your gut or doing what you feel is right or deviating from your plan because this trade feels like a home run, well, now we know where that's actually coming from. And we understand that that's one of the most dangerous things that you can possibly do in your trading. So, what does this mean? As traders, we need to adapt a tailored system around our strategy so that we're able to follow it in a disciplined manner day after day. That's the ticket. Because a lot of traders are trying to trade a strategy that forces them to go against the brain's natural design, and that will never work. So, the wrong solutions. What does the average funded trader actually do about this? They go and they get more knowledge, another course, another guru, another strategy, another trading group. Or they sit down and they try to do so much more chart time, so much more studying of the charts, so much more practice. They waste thousands of dollars trying to close a gap that has nothing to do with information or practice. Or they try the willpower approach. They make more promises to themselves. They create tighter trading rules. They say, tomorrow, look, I'm really going to be disciplined. I'm really going to be locked in. And every time the willpower fails and the same shame hits, and they start asking themselves, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just follow my rules? Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Why is it that every time I see profit in my account, I lose it all? And look, the solution is simple. You need a system that interrupts execution breaks before they fire, pattern specific interrupts built from your actual trading data, architecture that holds when willpower fails, and lastly, a measurement shift from outcome to execution quality. Because the willpower approach creates a shame spiral. Failure leads to the what's wrong with me questions, and it adds more pressure, which triggers more execution breaks, which creates more shame. So we're going to dive deeper into this solution. But let's start with this shame spiral. The shame adds more pressure to you, and more pressure makes the survival system more reactive, more sensitive, which makes execution breaks happen faster and more often than ever, which creates more shame. That's not a path to consistency. That's a loop that keeps getting tighter every single cycle. The trader who built 30,000 across 3 funded accounts didn't lack knowledge, didn't lack strategy, didn't lack discipline. He lacked a system designed to hold execution under pressure. The specific conditions that causes the brain to switch operating systems. That's a completely different problem, and it requires a completely different solution. And we found that 100% of funded traders who are repeatedly giving back a big portion of the profits that they've made, they are trying to solve the wrong problem because they've misidentified the true issue. So, what's the actual solution here? I know we touched on it briefly before, but how can we actually start using this today in trading? You need to change how your nervous system relates to pressure of live funded trading, not by adding more knowledge on top, not by demanding more willpower from yourself, by changing the conditions under which your survival system activates in the first place. That means knowing your specific pattern. Not I need more discipline, but the precise sequence of events that causes your execution to break. What triggers it? What happens? What it looks like right before you break a strategy rule, whether it's hesitating, whether it's chasing an entry, whether it's revenge trading, sizing up too fast, moving your stop loss, whatever that is, what are the circumstances around it? It means having a pre-built interrupt that's designed for that pattern. So that's not generic advice, but physical, concrete actions that were decided when you were calm and that you hold when you're not. And it means changing how you measure performance so your brain stops treating every trade like it's an identity test of whether or not you're a great trader or not. That's the architecture, that's the solution. And it's unique to every trader because every trader's pattern is different. Now, the full process of diagnosing your specific pattern, building your personalized interrupts, and installing a performance system that holds under live funded pressure, that's not something that we can just hand you in one YouTube video. That's exactly what we build and design inside Shift Alpha and work with you until you're used to it and familiar with it. Built from your actual trading data, and every trader's system looks different because every trader's pattern is different. But there's one shift I can give you right now that addresses a big piece in this measurement idea. And for most funded traders, this single change can absolutely be the start of a massive amount of emotional charge from their session being reduced greatly. Stop measuring your trading by outcomes. Start measuring it by process quality. I know that sounds very simple, but it is such an exponential shift that traders experience. Because right now, you probably define success as a trade that makes money and a failure as a trade that loses money. That definition is one of the biggest drivers we have found of the execution gap because it ties your emotional state to something you can't control, which is the outcome of an individual trade. And when your emotions are chained to something you can't control, your survival system stays permanently on alert. That's when every single price move matters. Every fluctuation is a verdict of whether you're a good trader or not. Every trade becomes a test of your identity. But now I want you to think about this. A trade where you followed your rules perfectly and lost money. That's your strategy doing its job. That's the 45% in the 55% win rate. It's supposed to happen. There's nothing to fix. Your strategy has a win rate because there is supposed to be a percentage of trades that lose with your strategy, even though you did everything correctly. A trade where you deviated from your rules, but you made money, That's actually more dangerous than a loss because it teaches your brain that breaking rules gets rewarded. Remember, we have the habit forming part of our brain, the pattern forming part of our brain, which tells us I did XYZ and I got this favorable result, so I had to do that in the future. It's exactly what we talked about, why you hesitate on a trade, why you chase trades. That works in reverse when you win a trade that you weren't supposed to win because you acted outside your strategy. It's one of the most dangerous things that can happen. Your brain is now going to start chasing that pattern harder next time, which will be bigger consequences in the future. And here's statistical logic at the bottom. Reinforcing rule breaks with positive outcomes create a neurological feedback loop that accelerates execution degradation exponentially over the subsequent 10 to 20 trade sample. In other words, it gets worse a lot quicker than you imagine. And I want you to think about this. When you shift the definition of winning from outcome to execution quality, something profound truly happens. The emotional stakes drop significantly because you're measuring something that you can actually control. And when the emotional stakes drop, your survival system stops firing as hard. Your thinking system stays online longer, and execution starts to feel less like a battle and more like a process. I want you to think about elite athletes. A quarterback doesn't measure a play by whether it scored a touchdown. He measures it by whether he read the defense correctly and executed the play as designed. Touchdowns are outcomes. They are simply circumstantial to the quarterback doing the right plays. Process is controllable, and elite performers focus on process because that's what actually produces consistency over time. Trading is the exact same game. And I want this to sink in. Your brain isn't broken, it's just running old software in a new environment. Once you stop fighting the wiring and start designing around it, consistency stops being something you chase and it starts to be something that you are. So let me bring this home for us. If you know your rules, if your strategy works when you follow it, and you keep breaking execution under live funded pressure, you do not have a knowledge problem. You have a performance problem disguised as a strategy problem. The execution gap is real, it's measurable, and it is not a character flaw. Your brain has just been running survival software in a market environment. And the market rewards the exact opposite of what the survival instinct produces. The answer isn't more information. The answer is changing how your nervous system relates to pressure. And it starts with one shift. Stop measuring money, start measuring execution quality. Because once you stop tying your identity to outcomes you can't control, the emotional charge drops and your brain finally gives you room to do what you already know to do. Your brain isn't broken, it's just running old software in a new environment. And once you stop fighting that wiring, the natural function of the brain, and start designing a system around it, consistency stops being something you chase and it starts to become who you are. Continuing to treat the execution gap as a knowledge problem, it guarantees permanent unprofitability. The biology of your mind will always override the information every single time under live pressure until you address this issue. So I want you to do one thing. I want you to comment the word execution down below. And if you're funded, I want you to comment the moment your execution actually breaks down the most. Is it after a loss? Is it near a payout? Is it when you're up big in your account and you have profits sitting there? Is it when you miss an entry and the trade is running beautifully without you? What is that one moment that causes the biggest spiral for you? Because knowing your trigger is truly one of the first and most important steps to being able to actually build a system that holds. And last but not least, in the coming videos, we're going to go deeper into what a defensible execution system actually looks like from the inside. And no matter who you are, no matter where you are, whether you watch this whole video and you're not funded yet, you've never been funded, or you have 30 funded accounts, it doesn't matter where you are in this trading journey. I want you to remember, you're only one small shift to alpha. I'll see you in the next one.